Yeah, a good Eif's fasting, and it's an amazing thing to think about how much we owe our curse to Hashem. There's a very big shaila on the bracha of Asher Yotzer when it says Asher Yotzer es Adam b'chachma. What does it mean Asher Yotzer es Adam b'chachma? So it really runs the gamut of different ways to translate it. One says that it means Asher Yotzer es Adam b'chachma, that Hashem created the person with such wisdom, the complexities of the excretory system, the circulatory system, the pulmonary system, the digestive system, right? It's tremendous chachma. Others say that it means Asher Yotzer es Adam b'chachma, that he gave us wisdom, that we could understand the daf of Zevachim. It's amazing. It's amazing that. But there's another pshat, Asher Yotzer es Adam b'chachma, that he created for us, since we're talking about going to the bathroom, that he created us the food that gives us the nutrition that we need. And it really is apparent when we don't eat, we just go, 16, 17 hours without eating, we're mamish feeling like we're falling apart. The head is hurting, we don't have strength, it makes us really appreciate the wonderful food that we have. It's really a time to reflect on that. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Ilan Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yudaya, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tziv Yamirim Bas Gad, Yosef ben Siyam ben Yaakov Zeb, and for a great shidduch for Chayat Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We were sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, and Rafut Shalema for Liba Bas Anya, by A.B. Spry, and also for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Beila Shein Rivka. We are co-sponsored by Berish Gesserman, Rafut Shalema for Shoshana Bas Adina, and by Mark Frankel, Lili Nishmas, his father, Yitzrael Sri, Ben Chaim Yeshua Falek, that the neshama should have an aliyah. And we are now already, what a Kiddush Hashem, that after a long day fast, we have 31 Zumas here. As we welcome in Saba, and we welcome in Yaakov Warman, we welcome in Shalom Fogel, Herschel Wadner, Dr. Block, Yisrael Fisher, Barry Cement, Rabbi Kranz, Shimon Klein, Michal Akta, Berish Gesserman, Ben Zion Cohn, Menachem Yemansky, Baruch Ian, Mark Frankel, Yitzi Muller, Nachman Chapler, Dr. Guy, Shelley Zeitlin, Moshe Lehman, Mo Kushner, Stephen Holtzman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Irving Fishbaum, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Ilya Shutman, Abe Arbach, Danny Vogel, Rebellia Yaffe, and David Helfgott here in the shul. We have Chaim Kramer, we have Michal Avram Chavin, we have Pesach Rosenberg, and we have Ruben Shanet holding down the fort over here. And I must say that we really miss everybody that's nearby. We come out would have an easy minyan if everybody would come that's nearby us. I hope that people will take that seriously. Maybe when we make the quarter day Marv, we'll have people that will be more motivated to come down. Okay, we learn at this wonderful time, Ben Keser LaAsr, we learn to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Dibar Tabam, La'asis Nachas Ruach L'Yitzreinu, and we are holding 5 lines from the bottom of Daf Yud Amid Beis, Tnan Hasam. Now there is a pasuk that tells us that if you bring the blood of a regular sin offering into the temple complex, the blood of a regular sin offering is sprinkled on the outside altar. If you bring it inside, it's disqualified. That's a pasuk. V'chol chatas asher yuva midama el oil ma'id lechaper b'kodesh lo yisei ochel. It's disqualified if you bring it inside. Now, the range, if that's only by a chatas or if it's by other karbanas, is a three-way machlokes. Tanan hasam, shir Kiva kol damim shenichnasu le'echel, all blood, let's say the blood of an ayla, the blood of shlamim, shenichnasu le'echel lechaper, that's mistakenly brought into the temple, psulim, because the Rebbe Kiva says in the pasuk v'chol, and the v'chol comes to include other karbanas too. It says v'chol chatas, every chatas is only a sin offering. Rebbe Eliezer aimer afa oshim. Now Rebbe Eliezer, this is consistent with his idea that there's a hekesh between oshim and chatas. Shenemar kachatas k'oshim, like the chatas, like the oshim. So the Gemara says Bishleim Rebbe Eliezer k'dikama time. He has the hekesh of kachatas k'oshim. So the oshim is like a chatas. El Rabbana my time. Why do they say only chatas? Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, Oshim Nichnas Damar Lefnim Pasal, to say that a guilt offering that you bring its blood inside is Pasal, Loi Matzis Amrit, that it should be an exception. You can't say that. Because Kal V'chaimer Me'ayla, it should be a fortiori, a Kal V'chaimer, from an Ayla. Ma'ayla. Shu Kalo, it's more chashiv, it's burned totally on the Mizbeach. Nichnas Damar Lefnim Ksheir, if you bring the blood inside, it doesn't disqualify it. Oshem she'ena kolu, which is not burnt up, like kol shechein, says Gemara, yeah, but mala oila shekein eina mechaperes. Maybe the oshem is more stringent because it affords kapara. Barry trespasses Mila, he has his business with the Shefcha Charufa. An oila doesn't come for a kapara. So the Gemara says, Let's mute people over here, says the Gemara, as we welcome in Daniel Rosenberg for our 32nd Zoomer of the evening. Leiv, says the Gemara, well, it can't be that it hinges on atonement, because minchas chaytei teichiach, the mincha of the sinner will disprove you. The mincha of the sinner, which is for the carbon oil of Yared, when somebody can't afford a bird offering for Tumas Mikdash Ukedashav, will disprove you, because over there, if you bring the kmitza, if you bring the kmitza into the temple, in the temple complex, it's not disqualified, and the kmitza is similar to blood. So you see that the reason why it's disqualified is not because it atones. Says the Gemara, well, why do you say minchas chaytei teichiach? V'lei mechatas ha'oif teichiach. Say the sin offering of the bird will disprove you that if you bring the blood inside, it's not disqualified. Says the Gemara, well, that's not so simple. Some hold it is disqualified. Chatas oif b'yidi Rebbe Avani. It's an inquiry of Rebbe Avani. Some say that the blood of a chatas oif, if you bring it inside, is disqualified. Says the Gemara, but v'lifreich ma'ala minchas chaytei. Well, the minchas chaytei is different. Shekein eina min zevach. It's not a type of slaughtered offering. It's not on the level of a zevach, and maybe that's why it's not disqualified. Well, ola teichiach, the oila will disprove it, because an oila is a zevach, and yet it's not disqualified if you bring it inside. The chazer adin, and therefore we could go in a circle. The deficiency of one is not like the deficiency of the other. And the deficiency of the other is not like the other. The common denominator is even though the oila and the minchas chaytei are kache kachim. Nichnas daman lefnim, if you bring the blood inside, it's ksherim. So af aniyavi ashim shu kaidish kadashim, and nichnas daman lefnim is kasher. So that's why the Rabbanan hold that we don't learn out kechatas ka'ashim, that if you bring the blood inside, it's disqualified. Amalei Rava Mibanish Ravashi v'lifrech malat tzara shava shebam shekein einla and kitzva. It doesn't have a fixed amount. The ashim has a fixed amount that you need to spend on it at least 2 shkalim. So maybe that's why if you bring the blood inside, it's disqualified. Timer b'ashim sheyesh leb kitzva. Elahainu tamai the Rabbanan. The reason why the Rabbanan hold that if you bring the blood of an ashim inside the temple, it's not disqualified. The amakra, because it says by the chatas, dama. Dama is a miyat. Dama shel zu, v'loy dama shelacha. The blood of a chatas, but not the blood of an ashim. V'idach, Rabbi Eliezer, dama v'loy besara. It's blood and not its meat. If you bring the meat inside, it's not disqualified. So taka, how does the Rabbanan know the meat? The idach dam dama. From dam, it could have said dam, and that we would know to exclude the meat. And then when it says dama, we exclude the blood of the chatas. The idach and the other one, dam dama loy darish. She doesn't dash in that as two drushes, dam and then dama. Says the Gemara, Bishloim al Rabbanan, Diemrei Oshim Sheshachta Shaloi Lishmai Kasher. Remember, the Rabbanan hold only two karbanas if you shech them Shaloi Lishmai Apostle. The Pesach and the Chatas. That's it. But the Oshim, if you shech the Shaloi Lishmai, it's kasher. So according to that, that explains that we compare the meal offering to both chatas and ashim. Hainu the iskish mincha lechatas and mincha leashim. That's why we find that the meal offering is compared on the one hand to a chatas and the other hand to an ashim. The Tanya, Reb Shimon Aimer, Kodesh Kadashim, the mincha is holy of holies, kachatas v'cha ashim. Like the sin offering and like the guilt offering. Now, why do we compare a meal offering to a sin offering and a guilt offering? Oh, that's very simple. Minchas chayte, since it's of the chatas variety, harihik chatas, that if you do it shaloi lishma, it's puzzle. Lefika kmatza shaloi lishma, if you take the kmitza, which is tantamount to shchita, if you take the kmitza shaloi lishma, it's psula. Minchas nedava, which is not of a chatas variety, harika ashim, where if you do it shalai lishma, it's kosher. Lefika comes to shalai lishma ksheira. Of course, it's layalul l'bayim l'shem chayva in the case of an ashim, but it's in the case of mincha, it's different, like we explained yesterday. El Rebbe Eliezer, but according to Rebbe Eliezer, that holds that the ashim is also pasul shalai lishma. So why do we compare the mincha to an chatas and an ashim? Lamai hilchas ishkish mincha lechatas mincha la'ashim. So now here's an interesting thing. You have to know that other karbanas, we spray the blood from a clay sharis. By a chatas, we dab the blood with the finger. Now, the Gemara says, L'chi idach de Rabbi Shimon. The fact that we juxtapose the mincha, the chatas, and the ashim is for another teaching of Reb Shimon. The Tanan, shaloi b'klei shareis psula. If the kaimitz is put without a clay shareis, if you put it with your hand, it's possible. That's the opinion of the Chacham. Rabbi Shimon Maksha. Rabbi Shimon says the kmitza can be done with the hand or with a clay sharis. And that's what he learns out from Kechatas Ka'ashim. V'am Rab Yehuda Brei Rab Chia, my time of Rab Shimon. What's the reason of Rab Shimon? Amakra, Kodesh Kadashim hi, the mincha is holy of holies, Kechatas v'Ka'ashim, like a sin offering and a guilt offering. Bal Oyvda Biyad, if you want to do it with your hand, so you could do it, you must do it with your right hand. You could do it right hand, like you dab the blood with a sin offering. But kli, if you want to put the kmitza with a kli, you could do it even with your left hand. That's Reb Shimon's unique opinion, that when putting it from a clay sharis, you could spray it even from the left hand, and that's what you learn out. So the problem is we quoted two things from Reb Shimon from the same pasuk. So Reb Shimon himself, he uses it for both. That kachatas ka'ashim is telling you that if it's a minchas chayte, it has to be done lishma. if it's a Minchas Nedava, it's good Shalai Lishma. And also he learns out that it could be done with the hand, like a Chattas, or it could be done with a Keli, like an Asham. So how does Reb Shimon use it for both? So says the Gemara, you're right. Reb Shimon essentially uses the Kachatzas Ka'ashim for the second Rasha. That if you want to do it with the hand, you could do it with a hand like a Chattas. If you want to do it with a Keli, you can do it with a Keli like an Ashim. Uminchas Chaytei de Psula Shalai Lishma is because Chattas Taima Achrina. There's a different reason. Taima Ma'idach Sibbahu. What's the reason that a Chattas is disqualified if it's done Shalai Lishma? It's because it says who? Minchas Chaytei Namik Sibbahu. And Minchas Chaytei it also says who. And therefore, we know that it's Psul Shalai Lishma. The Minchas Nedava is kosher like any other Nedava that doesn't have to be Lishma. Only a Pesach and a Chattas has to be Lishma. Just getting underway over here on a beautiful Matzi Tanis, and it's nice that, my body, when it's a Matzi Tanis, feels like Yom Kippur when we learn two blat. But tonight we only have to learn one blat. Look how disappointed Mark was. I'm sorry, Mark, I'm sorry. I want to tell everybody that Mark is mechayev the people that live here. Because if Mark would live on Valley Stream, he would never miss a night. Am I right, Mark? If you live on Valley Stream, he would be here. I mean, he's even thinking to come all the way from Bela Kinwood.
I would like to hope so, Rabbi. I would like to hope so.
Well, listen, you know what? You tell your wife there's some nice houses here on Valley Stream, I'll tell you that. With big master bedrooms with jacuzzis and sunrooms, and it's just waiting for you. We have a seat here for you. A seat right next to Michal Avram. You'll be all set. So anyway, look at Michal Avram is smiling, Yeah. If I would say Barry, Michal Avram would say, okay, then I'm moving to Staten Island. But Mark is...
I have to wait for my girl to over 18.
Yeah, okay, listen. Otherwise, Baruch Hashem, you have wonderful girls. Baruch Atari, Noilahin Melachilam Shakol Niyabidvar.
I tried to convince them they're just bored in Brooklyn, but they wouldn't like that.
Well, you should appreciate you have your girls. I remember I had a Talmud in Memphis, a wonderful person. I started with him, the Agudas Yisrael of Memphis. His name is Michael Stein. And he told me that they had to send their girls away for high school. He said it was a very hard thing that when they got to the age of 13, they had to send them away from home. It was a very, very, very hard thing. So be happy that you have your girls with you. Now, we have now the next opinion. The next opinion is that Yosi ben Chuni says that anything that's slaughtered, he adds a new twist, that anything that's slaughtered as a Pesach or that's slaughtered as a Chattas is also disqualified. It's a new twist. So, Yosi ben Chuni Aimer Hanishchotin, those that are slaughtered on the 14th of Nisan, let's say you slaughtered an oiler for a Pesach, it's disqualified. Or the whole year, if you slaughter something as a Chattas, it's disqualified. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. No. Oh, you're right. Look at that. I tried to do a sneaky. Says the Gemara, Ul-Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, Lamai Hilchasa Iskish Ashim L'Chattas. That's interesting. It says K'Chattas K'Ashim. According to Rabbanan, why do we compare the Ashim to a Chattas? Laimalach ma chatas tuna smicha, just like a chatas, you need to lean upon it. Af oshem ton smicha. You have to do smicha for a guilt offering as well. So Yaisi ben Chayni Aimer Anishkaten. Amr Reb Yechlin Yaisi ben Chayni v'Rabbi Eliezer Amru Davarech. Yaisi ben Chayni, Rabbi Eliezer say the same thing. Says the Gemara, no. You see, Rabbi Eliezer, he says the din only about a Pesach. He doesn't say that if you have in mind other korbanos for a chatas, it's disqualified. So Rabbi Amar B'Cheim L'Shem Chatas Pligi. They argue about whether you have other korbanos in mind for a sin offering. According to Rabbi Yossi ben Chayni, that's disqualified. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it's only disqualified if you have in mind for a Pesach, but not for a Chatas. The Tanya. Ha-Pesach she'ovra shnasai. A korban Pesach that's over the hill. Remember, a korban Pesach has to be a yearling. So here we have a Pesach that's over the hill. Ushchatoi bizmanoi lishmai. And you shecht it on the 14th of Nisan for a Pesach. That's very good, but it's not a Ben Shana. It's not a year old, so it's not going to be good. Or if you shecht an oila for a Pesach on the 14th of Nisan in the afternoon, Rebbe Eliezer Paisel, Rebbe Eliezer Pasels, Rebbe Yeshua Machshir. And Rebbe Yeshua says it's kosher. Now, Amar Rebbe Yeshua, so Rebbe Yeshua give...
Kosher for a Pesach?
What?
Kosher for a Pesach?
No, not for a Pesach. It's kosher as a korban. No, it's if you went ahead and you shechted, let's say, an oila as a Pesach, it's kosher, but it's like Allah l'baylam l'shem chayva. So you continue the avodah of an oila, and it's like a nedava. Kasher nadar to Hashem alikecha nedava. Now, Rabbi Yeshua argues as follows. Very interesting argument. Rabbi Yeshua, in Bishar Yemais Hashada, if the rest of the year, she'enoi kosher lishmai, if you shecht a Pesach, l'shem Pesach, the rest of the year, it's not kosher. That's the din, because the pasuk says that it has to be shechted beino arboyim. So if you shecht it at any other time, l'shem Pesach, it's not good. But acherim ksherim lishmai, if you shecht another korban l'shem Pesach, it's kosher. Bizmanoi shu kosher lishmai, in its proper time, the 14th of Nisan, where if you shecht the Pesach l'shem Pesach, it's good. Einoi din sheyichshu acherim lishmai, then surely if you shecht another korban l'shem Pesach, it should be good. Again, let's go over this Kal V'Chomer. Barish was telling me earlier that last night's Kal V'Chomers were needed a little fatracht, needed a little pause. So let's go over this Kal V'Chomer again. Rabbi Yeshua says, if during the rest of the year, if you shecht a Pesach, L'shem Pesach, it's no good. Yet, if you shecht another korban as a Pesach, it is good. So on Erev Pesach, when you shecht a Pesach for a Pesach, it is good. Surely if you shecht something else for a Pesach, it should be good. So Rabbi Eliezer says, you could spin it a different way. Depends how you spin it. You could spin it a different way. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer, Oy chiluf advarim, or look at it a different way. Uma im b'shar yemais hashana, the rest of the year. She'enoi kosher l'shmai, when if you do the Pesach for its own sake, it's not kosher. But kosher hu l'shem acherim, it's kosher if you shech the carbon Pesach for a different denomination. Right? That's the din, because if you shech it for something else, it's kosher as a shlamim. Bizmano shu kosher l'shmai, einoi din sheyuchshel l'shem achayim. Shouldn't it be for sure that if you slaughter it for a different type of carbon, that it should be good? The yuchsher Pesach ba'arba aser shaloi l'shma, the Pesach on the 14th would be kosher if you did it shaloi l'shma. Would you say that? Would you make such an argument that if you shech the Pesach for something else, it's good? Of course, it's not good. But you could use that argument and say that if you shech the Pesach for something else, it should be good. Would you say that? And now Rabbi Eliezer shows why he doesn't argue like Rabbi Yeshua. Mali hukshru acherim b'shayim ha'ishashana l'shmai. The fact that others are done l'shem Pesach the rest of the year is good. That makes sense. Shekein hu kosher l'shem acherim. Because if you do a Pesach for something else the rest of the year, it's good. But for yuchshiru acherim bizman l'shmai, but if you shecht an oila on erev Pesach for a Pesach, should it be good? Shekein hu pasal l'shem acherim. If you shecht the Pesach for something else, it's no good. And therefore, that's Rebbe Eliezer's argument that if you shecht on erev Pesach another carbon l'shem Pesach, it's disqualified. Amalei Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Yeshua says an interesting thing. Im kein hurata koyach Pesach. You're weakening the koyach of a Pesach. Now, a Pesach should be strong, because it's only by the Pesach that it says v'amartem zevach Pesachu, that you have to have in mind for the Pesach and not for anything else. But it comes out that you're weakening the Pesach v'nosata koyach b'shlamim, because you're saying that if you have in mind a shlamim l'shem Pesach, it's going to be disqualified. Right? Because the rest of the year, if you shech the Pesach for something else, it's kosher. Yet, on Erev Pesach, if you shech the shlamim for a Pesach, according to you, you're saying it's disqualified. So, Rebbe Eliezer liked this taina. So Chazer Rebbe Eliezer v'danu din acher. So Rebbe Eliezer now advanced another argument. Matzinu meiser Pesach b'shlamim. We find that a leftover Pesach is offered up as a shlamim. But the ein meiser shlamim b'Pesach. But a leftover shlamim is not offered up as a Pesach. Right? If you have a leftover shlamim, it's offered up as a shlamim. It's not offered up as a Pesach. But if you have a leftover Pesach, it's offered up as a shlamim. Now, Uma Pesach, Shemoiser Ba Shlamim. Madach Pesach, if it's left over, if let's say it's over Zmanoi, it's offered up as a Shlamim. Shachtoi Bizmanoi L'Shum Shlamim Pasel. If you shecht it on Erev Pesach as a Shlamim, it's possible, because that's a Pesach that shechted Shaloi L'Shma. Shlamim that has the stringency she'ein moisron ba Pesach, that if you have a leftover shlamim, it's not offered up as a Pesach, then surely if you shech the shlamim l'shem Pesach, it's going to be disqualified. Im shachtam l'shem Pesach bizmanai Einay din sheyeh psulin, surely it should be disqualified. So says Gemara, Amalei Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Yeshua counters to him, Matzinu meiser chates ba'oila. We find, now this is rare. It's true that this is rare, as we welcome in Dr. Udell for our 33rd Zoomer of the evening. What a Kiddush Hashem. That after Tanis, we have 33 Zoomers. People had such a hard day. They come and learn a hard daf of Zevachim. Bravo to all of you, Rabbi say. Bravo. Hashem should have nachas from us. Now, normally, it's true, people are used to hearing that if you have a leftover chattis, it has to die. For example, if the owner died, the chattis has to die. If the owner received kapara from something else, it has to die. If it's a chattis, a female, if it's a baby chattis, it has to die. If it's a tamura of a chattis, it has to die. But there are certain chattises, you see, Dr. Black is a careful man. He goes to Yerushalayim. He doesn't want to have it that on the way, his animal will get a blemish, and then he'll be in trouble. So he could be mafresh an animal lachrayas. He could separate a second animal and say that this should be a replacement if I need it. If then afterwards he didn't need it, so that moiser is offered up as an ayla. So you see, Amalei Rabbi Yeshua, Matzinu moiser chatas ba'ayla. But even so, we don't do it the other way around. Ve'ein moiser ayla ba'chatas. We never have that a ayla that's left over is offered up as a chatas. So that's a chumrah of ayla. So then we should use your kal v'chayimra, ma'chatas, shemoiser ba'ayla. Shachta l'shem ayla psula, if you shecht it for an ayla, it's possible because the chatas that shecht l'shem ayla shalai l'shma. We should say ayla shem moiser ba'chatas, shachta l'shem chatas. If you shecht an ayla as a chatas, ain't a din shetei psula, but it's not. Because an ayla that shecht shalai l'shma is kosher. Amalei Rebbe Eliezer, so Rebbe Eliezer again, this is the master of spin. I don't mean this in a cavalier way. You have to know how to look at it. Lo ima marta b'chatis shekein ksheru l'shma kol hashana kula. Chatis is kosher l'shma the whole year. Taima b'Pesach she'ena kosher l'shma ela b'zmanai. It's only kosher if you do it l'shma on the 14th of Nisan. So, Hayol Hu Pasal L'Shmai, since the Pesach is Pasal L'Shmai the entire year, right? Dinu Sheyivsu Achem L'Shmai. So, therefore, if you do others for its name, it's also disqualified. And therefore, Rebbe Eliezer holds that if you do a Oila, L'Shem Pesach, on the 14th of Nisan after Chatzais, it's going to be disqualified. Now, the last opinion in the Mishnah is that in Shaloi Lishma, it depends if you upgrade or you downgrade. If you have in mind a more elevated carbon, it's not disqualified. If you have in mind a less elevated carbon, it is disqualified. So therefore, Marshall, if I do a shlomim l'shem oila, since shlomim is kacheh kalim and oila is kacheh kachim, it's going to be kosher. On the other hand, if I have in mind an oila for a shlomim, that's disqualified because the oila is kacheh kachim, holy of holies, and shlomim is kachim kalim, is lesser holiness. Let's see this inside. The Gemara is going to analyze this. Shimon Achai Azariah Omer, Shimon the brother of Azariah says, Rav Ashi Masnei Mishmei Rab Yochanan. Rav Ashi taught in the name of Rab Yochanan. Rav Achabrei de Rava Masnei Mishmei Rab Yanai. My time at the Shimon Achai Azariah. Oh, it's a pasuk. The Amar Krova lo yechalu es kachei b'nei Yisrael. It won't be desecrated. Kachei b'nei Yisrael. Eis asher yorimu la'Hashem. If you elevate it to Hashem. Meaning, b'murim mehen, if you have in mind a holier designation, an elevated designation, ein nischalalim. B'navach mehem, if you have in mind a lesser designation, mischalalim. So, as I explained, if, let's say, Mark was offering a shlamim, and he has in mind an oila, so that's murim lahem, that's more elevated, that's good. If, however, Mark was bringing an oila, and he has in mind the shlamim, that's lowering it, that's no good. Says the Gemara, but we already had Gemaras that we used this pasuk for a different usage entirely. Asks the Gemara, does the pasuk come for this? We use it for the drafsha Shmuel. Dama Shmuel. How do we know? We know that before the crops are tithed, they're called tevel. Tevel is a corruption of tavloi. It's no good. You can't eat it. Before it's tithed, you can't eat it. So the din is, if you eat tevel, it's a misa b'dei shemayim. It's death at the hands of heaven. See, it's so interesting that there are things in food that are much more serious than pig. We think pig, lobster, octopus, but those are only a lav. Chalev is an isikaris. Dam is an isikaris. Grain that's not tithe, grapes that are not tithe, is a misa b'nei shemayim. So the Gemara says, how do we know this? Dama Shmuel, and for those that are just joining us, we are on the first wide line of Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, and again, much to Mark's chagrin, we are only learning one blot tonight. I'm sorry. Why do you think Shelley is not letting us see his actual picture? Because otherwise we would see the disappointment written all over his face. That's why. Look at him. He's laying down. He's shocked that we're only learning one blot. What can you do? Good to have you, Shelley.
Thank you. I'm so worn out from yesterday and the day before. I can tell you, I'm worn out.
Yeah, well, listen. All that tshuva, I understand. All that
that's right. Had to go a long way.
All that tshuva. The truth of the matter is tshuva is a gut-wrenching business. If we really work on ourselves, never forget what Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, that to change one midah is harder than learning the entire Shas. And learning the entire Shas is a big thing. We know. But to change one midah, that's why you don't know. You don't know how you should stand up full when you see Barry, because I knew Barry 10 years ago. To change even one midah, then Barry is a changed man.
Rabbi, I don't necessarily agree with Rabbi Yisrael Salan.
Because he says it's both Bavli and Yerushalmi. Now, no, but to change, Rabbi say, change is a very hard thing. So anyway, minayin lo'ichel esatevel shubamisa. How do we know that if you eat non-tied produce, it's misbedei shenayim? Shenem aval yichalu es kachay b'nei Yisrael. You shouldn't desecrate the kachay b'nei Yisrael. Eis asher yarimu la'Hashem. That which you will lift off in the future. Before you lift off the truma and the maisis, it's a chilul. V'asidim litram akasim medaber. Says the Gemara, yeah, we know that also, because in came lichtov kra. If it was just coming to tell me that it's not a desecration, if it was elevated, it could have said it in the past tense, asher urmu. So therefore, what Barry had in mind in the past, his oila l'shem, his shlamim l'shem oila, it's not mechalit. It didn't have to say it in the future. My asher yarimu. Oh, that's coming to tell us also about the tevel shmami no tarte. We know both. Oh, so now comes an interesting shayla. We know that the Tanakama holds that if you shecht a shlomim for the sake of an oila, it's kosher, but it's le'olah l'bayil m'shem chayva. You didn't fulfill your requirement, you have to bring another one. The shayla is, what about Shimon Achi Azariah? What does he hold if you shech the shlamim l'shem oila? Will that be also alul l'bayil m'shem chayva? So ask the Gemara, Boy Reb Zera, ksherin ve'ein meratzen. If you do a shlamim l'shem oila, it's kosher, but it's not meratzen, which is essentially like the Tanakama. And the only thing that he's arguing with is that if you do an oila l'shem shlamim, it's no good at all. V'chi palik b'chada palik. Oy dilma ksherin umeratzen. He holds that if you shech the shlamim l'shem oila, it's even ola l'bayil m'shem chayva. He even fulfills the requirement. And then u'b'tarte pliki. They're arguing both. That if you do a shlamim l'shem oila, it's good even that you don't have to bring another carbon. If you bring an oila l'shem shlamim, it's no good at all. Amar Abaye, v'yisei Reb Zerika tashma, ha'bechar v'amaiser sheshachta l'shem shlamim ksherim. Bechar v'amaiser that you shech l'shem shlamim is kosher. Shlamim sheshachta l'shem bechar l'shem maiser, but shlamim that you shechta as a bechar or maiser psulim. Now we explained that a bechar and a maiser that you shech for a shlamim, that's an upgrade, because the shlamim have two matnamim, and it has smicha and nesachim and tenufas chazav v'shaik. Well, shlamim that you downgrade to a bechar or a maiser is possible. Now, but the first thing that it says that a bechar or a maiser that you shech for shlamim is kosher. If you want to say kosher and it's meratzah and it appeases, how could you apply that to bechar and maiser? Bechar and maiser don't come to appease. Bechar is just you have to bring it because it was kaddish merechem, but it doesn't appease for anything. There's no such thing that if it was a meratzah, you would have to bring another one. You don't have to bring another bechar. Says Gemara, el ksherin ve'ein meratzin. Here, it's not talking about ritzui. But the sefer ksherin ve'ein meratzin, since the sefer there's no ritzui, reishanamik ksherin ve'ein meratzin, even in the case of a shlamim l'shem oila, it's kosher, but you have to bring another one. Says Gemara, who says? Mideir, Yahakadis, of Hakadis. Each one is different. A shlamim that you do l'shem oila, maybe it's alul l'bayil l'shem chayva. By bechar ma'aser, that's not shayach. So then the Gemara says, Elamai kamash malan. What's it just coming to tell you? Gevaya v'namach kamash malan. It's coming to tell you that the shlamim is higher and the bechar ma'aser is lower. Tanina. We learned that. Ketzad. Kachim sheshachtel l'shem kachim kalim is no good. Kachim kalim that's shechtel l'shem kachim is good. Says Gemara, yeah, but I might say that's only a difference between kachim and kachim kalim. But bechor, meiser, and shlom, which are all kachim kalim, maybe there isn't gevaya namach. How does it say kachim and kachim kalim? Gevaya namach. There's different levels. Aval kalim bechor, meiser, and shlom, which is all kachim kalim like. Says Gemara, hanami tanin. We learned that also, that there's a superiority of shlamim over bechor and meiser. Shlamim koidmin as a bechor. If you have two karbanos to offer, shlamim and a bechor, shlamim come first. Because the shlamim has two applications of blood on two diagonal corners, which goes to all four sides, while the bechor only has one. And it has the leaning and the libations and the waving of the breast and the shank. Says the Gemara, you're right. Ha'ikar. That's the main place. Hahi agrora nasra. Here, it's just mentioned along the way. Now, we know that the Zman of the Korban Pesach is Beino Arboyim, is in the afternoon of the 14th. You have to shech the Korban Pesach in the afternoon of the 14th. That we know. What happens, and we said that if you shech the Pesach Shaloi Lishma in the afternoon of the 14th, it's possible. Right? Chatas and Pesach Shaloi Lishma is possible. What happens if you shech the Pesach Shaloi Lishma in the morning of the 14th? Is that like doing it the rest of the year? If you shech the Pesach Shaloi Lishma, it's kosher as a shlamim. Or because it's the 14th of Nisan, it's possible. So says the Mishnah, HaPesach sheshachtu shachris ba'arba asar shaloi l'shmai. That's like doing it on Purim. Therefore it's kosher. Rabbi Yeshua Machshir. Kilo nishchata b'shloisha asar. As if you did it on the 13th or on Purim. Ben Beseira Paisel, Ben Beseira says it's on the 14th of Nisan. It's possible kilo nishchat bein arbaim. Now, Omar Shimon ben Azai, Mekubal ani mepi shivim u'shnayim zaken. I have a Kabbalah to that unbelievable day. There was a dispute between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, and because they felt that Rabbi Gamliel, the Nasi, did not give the proper respect to Rabbi Yeshua, they deposed Rabbi Gamliel, and they appointed Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah in his stead. Later on, Rabbi Gamliel was reinstated. He made up with Rabbi Yeshua. But it says, I remember, and he said, I trace it back to B'yayim, to that memorable day, Shoyishivu as Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, and that was a miracle because Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah was all of 18 years old, and he grew a white beard. That's what we say in the Haggadah, Ari Ani Keven Shivim Shana. I was like one that was 70. So I remember them that day that they appointed Rabbi Eliezer b'yeshiva, Shekol Zevachim HaNecholim, all Zevachim that are eaten, Shenirchzevuchu Shaloi L'Shma Ksherin, that if they're slaughtered Shaloi L'Shma, they're kosher, Ela Shaloi Alu L'Balim B'Shub Choiva, Chutz Min HaPesach Min HaChatas, right? The Pesach and the Chatas, if you do it Shaloi L'Shma, it's possible. But he added an extra caveat. He said, I remember this about all kosher that are eaten are kosher if done Shaloi L'Shma. He's precluding the Oila, because the Oila is not eating. He says, the Oila Taka also, if you do it Shaloi L'Shma, it's possible. V'loi Haisa ben Azei el ha'Oila. He held that the Oila, if you do it Shaloi L'Shma, is also possible, since it's not eaten. However, v'loi Haida loi Chacham. The Chacham held only the Pesach and the Chatas, nothing else. Now, We said that Ben Meseira holds that if you shecht the Korban Pesach Shaloi Lishma in the morning of Erev Pesach, it's possible. Now, why does he hold that it's possible? So the Gemara entertains the idea. Let's see it inside. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar Rabbi Ishia. Machshir haya ben Meseira b'Pesach sheshachnu shakris b'arba asal lishmai. That's because he holds that the whole day is kosher to shech the Korban Pesach, not just from the chatzais, not just from the afternoon. We're going to have to see what is he do with Bein Arboim. Bein Arboim Pashtus means the afternoon. But he holds the whole day is kosher. So just like the whole day is kosher lishmai, so the whole day is possible if you do it shaloi lishmai. The kula yom is zibnayu. So then, what does it mean? Umay ki'ilu. What do you mean? It's as if he did it in the afternoon. If the afternoon is not the Zman, it's the whole day. What do you mean, like the afternoon? So he says, no, that was only for symmetry. I need Amar Rabbi Yeshua Ki'ilu, Amar Iyonami Ki'ilu. So says the Gemara, said, then why do they argue about Shaloi Lishmai? They should argue in a very direct question. What's the din if you shecht the Pesach in the morning Lishmai? Rabbi will hold it's no good. And Rebbe Meseira will hold it's good. Why argue in the wrong way? That if you do it in the morning, Lishmai before Chatzais is it good? Says the Gemara, if Lishmai have a mina, aval b'shaloi Lishmai. If you do it shaloi Lishmai, Ma'adir Rebbe Yeshua leben Meseira, that it's possible since it's the day of the Shrita. Since part of the day is fit. So then the whole day Shaloi Lishma is possible. Kamash Malan, that no, according to Rebbe Yeshua, if you shecht it in the morning Shaloi Lishma, it's kosher, because that's not the Zman of the Shrita. But Eino Chanami, according to Ben Meseira, if you shecht the Korban Pesach in the morning, it's kosher. What do you do with the pasuk Bein Arboim? V'aksiv Bein Arboim. It says Bein Arboim. Bein Arboim is the afternoon. It says not over here. Over here, when it says Bein Arboim, it means Bein Ha'arovim, between the two nights, between the night of the going into the 14th and the night of the 15th. In other words, the whole day of the 14th. So Amar Ula Brein Rabbi Eloi Bein Shnei Arovim. Says the Gemara, but by the Talmud of the afternoon, when it says Bein Arboim, it's only kosher in the afternoon. Talmud Dichsim Bein Arboim Hachanami the Kula Yom kosher, that the second Talmud, the Talmud, could be brought the whole day. Says the Gemara, no. You do one in the morning. So when it says that that means in the afternoon. Says the Gemara. Who says? Maybe it means that you have to do one in the morning, and the other one you can do the whole day. Says the Gemara. No, because it says only echad b'boker, only one in the morning, v'lo shnayim b'boker. Says the Gemara, but what about the menorah? We should say that you can light the menorah the whole day. That's different, because it also says Shani Hasam Dichsiv Me Erev Ad Boker, from the evening until the morning. V'tanya Me Erev Ad Boker Tein Lo Midasa, put in its measure. Shetei Doilekes V'Leches Me Erev Ad Boker. So there it's clear, it's not the whole day. Davar Achar, when it says Me'erev ad Boker, Ein lo chavodah kshera me'erev ad Boker elazu. The menorah is the last avodah of the day. In other words, after you light the menorah, you can't do the tamid, you can't do the ketairis. Me'erev ad Boker, it's the last avodah of the day. Ein lo avodah kshera. There's no avodah that's kosher. There's no service that's kosher. Me'erev ad Boker, except for except for the menorah. Now, I just want to say that the shir on Motzi Shabbos, right? We're on Thursday night, right? So now we have to make an announcement. Shir for Motzi Shabbos. Shir for Motzi Shabbos is that schedule is still a secret. So let's put that here. Let me get out the schedule to make sure I get this right. Daf Yomi is 9:15. Motzi Shabbos, Daf Yomi is 9:15. I should tell you already now, since I'm sure you want to know, that on Shabbos, the women's Shabbos Shuvah Drasha is at 5 o'clock. The men's Shabbos Shuvah Drasha is at 6:45. So you have to eat early Shalosh Hodas. Women's Shabbos Shuvah Drasha is 5, and men's Shabbos Shuvah Drasha is 6:45.
My simply say that Talmud is the last thing of everything.
No, the last thing is the menorah.
The davening, it says.
What?